In this video, we're going to do 7.03 best stats. Alright, so we already have the file downloaded and opened up in DrRacket. So this problem has two subproblems, A and B. Let's just get started with the problem A. Can give myself some space here. Alright, so it says design a data definition to model properties of an item in a video game. Name your data item. Alright, and here's a table of items. Alright, so pause the video and see if you can work through these steps of the design recipe. We'll go over spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so I'm assuming that you guys took a good swing at it. So we need to find a structure. And the thing we want to name, right, the thing we want to model is an item, right? So name your data item. And an item has a name, some attack points, some defense points according to the table, and a price. All right, next is how to make the item. So item is make item. So names are best modeled with strings. Attack is going to be a natural number. Defense also natural. And price is also natural, right? We're not seeing any negatives here. Note that in a real game, right, there can be attack and defense can be negative values. You can imagine like a cursed shield, right? We're going to give you 100 defense, but in return, we're going to put your attack to be negative 50. So just putting it out there. But in this case, we don't see any examples, so I'm just going to say it's a natural for now. This may change if, your game decides to add more things. Anyways, let's just move on with the interpretation. All right, so what do each of these fields mean? Name is self-explanatory. Name means name, all right? And then let's see, attack. Buffs how hard you hit. Defense. Buffs, buffs how much damage you block. And then price just means price, right? It's kind of self-explanatory here. All right, let's move on to the next step. So I'm just going to check myself off for description and interpretation. Next, we got to write down all the axis of signatures, all right? So the struct axis of signatures. So we're given the functions item name that consumes an item and produces a string, right? That's going to be the name of the item. And also for the attack, defense, and price, right? In this case, attack, defense, and price. All right. And these all just produce natural numbers. All right. So we just copy and paste this like so. And that is all the structure signatures done. Next are some examples. All right, so let's just use this table right here as some examples. So let's see, I'm going to define, we'll do knife and dagger first. So knife is going to be make item, all right? And then we're going to give it the name. So it's just going to be knife. And then 5 attack, 5 defense, then the price is 5. All right, let's do the dagger next. All right, so dagger has, the name is of course different. Attack and defense are the same, but the price is a little more pricier. All right, and this is going to be dagger. All right, let's do 2 more for good measure. So we're also going to do, the spear and then the sword. So let's just do that. Going to copy and paste this. So for these two. All right, so we're going to say spear and sword. We're going to get those values soon. So there we go. And there we go. So what are their numbers? So a spear has 10, 20. All right. And then the price is 31. And then the sword has 25 and 43. So 25 and 43. All right, next is the template. So let me mark myself done for the examples. So a template that processes this data. All right, so I'm going to check myself off for that because we're just going to do this now. So any function that takes in an item, so item temp, we'll call it im for the input variable name, has to probably take apart its pieces. So we're probably going to want the name of the item, of the given item. Probably want the attack of the given item, the defense, And then the, let's see, price. All right. We're just laying out a good foundation here. And those are all the fields. All right. So that is how to design data done. Now let's move on to functions. All right. So problem B says, design a function best stats that produces the name of the item with the most combined stats. Combined stats should only include attack and defense points. That kind of makes sense because price doesn't really help you when you're in combat, right? It's only when you're selling to a merchant or something. All right. If equal, produce the name of the second given item. All right. So pause the video and try to follow the HTTF steps right over here. I'm going to go to spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right. So I'm assuming that you guys took a good swing at it. So let's start off with the signature as always. So best stats consumes an item, right? And so design a function best stats to produce the name of the item with the most combined stats. So we're comparing two items. So there we go. And it should produce a string. All right. All right. So next is the purpose statement. All right. So let's sort of simplify this down. So produce the name of the item with the best combined stats. If equal, produce second item. All right, next is the stub. So define best stats. Call it IM and then IM2 for the two given items, and then an empty string because it has to produce a string. All right, let's keep going. So check, expect for the tests. Best stats of, all right, so now we can use our examples over here. So let's compare the spear. No, let's compare the knife and the dagger, all right? So the knife has 5 attack and 5 defense, and the dagger has 5 attack and 5 defense. So they both sum up to 10, so they're equal in this case. So let me just type this out. So knife and dagger, right? So it says if equal, right? Produce the name of the second given item. So dagger is the second given item in this function call. So we have to produce the name of the dagger, which is just the string dagger. All right, so let's swap these two around. All right, let's see what happens if knife is given second. All right, and then dagger is given first. Well, since they're both equal, to produce the name of the second given item. And in this case, since it's knife, right, the name is also knife, as we can see here, all right? All right, let's keep going. Let's try a couple more examples here. All right, so let's compare the sword and the spear. All right, so let's just scroll up here. So let me look at this table. So a sword has 20 plus 5, that's 25. A spear has 10 plus 20, which is 30. So the spear has the better combined stats of these two. All right, so we're going to have to boost the string spear in this case. All right, let's do one last one for good measure. Let's compare the sword with a knife. All right, that's a no-brainer because the sword has more stats than the given knife, which only has like 10. All right, so let's just write that down. So sword. All right, so next, let's just run our test against the stub right here. Just mismatches, no typos or anything. All right, so now I'm gonna make the template. So I can just take this template and use this as a starting point. All right, there is some difference here though, because this template only takes one item, right? And deconstructs those parts. We also need to deconstruct the second given item, right? And as you can see, this only takes one argument. We need one that takes 2. So I'm going to call it IM2. And then we're also going to need to deconstruct all of its fields, right? Take it apart. So we're going to possibly need the name of the item, second given item, the attack of the second given item, defense of the second given item, and the price of the second given item, right? Just laying out a foundation here. All right, so pause the video and try to work it on your own. This should be all the mental scaffolding needed to solve the problem. I'm going to spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so I'm assuming that you guys took a good swing at it. So I'm going to make a copy of the template, and I'm just going to paste it here, right, for reference. There we go. And let's start picking it apart, all right? First of all, we're going to rename it to best stats, like so. All right. So let's start taking it apart what we need and don't need. We don't really need the price because the price is not involved in this problem at all. So let's delete taking the price of the first item. and also taking the price of the second item. So those two are gone. So really we need to add the attack and defense points. So there we go. So I'm just going to wrap these two in an add. All right. And same with the bottom one. I'm going to move them soon. All right. And we pretty much need an if here. So if, all right, the first item is greater than the sum of the stats of the first item is greater than the sum of the stats of the second item, like so. Gonna make sure it's in here. Control I to redent, a little bit more nicer. I'm gonna put this down one more. There we go. Should probably space these out too. There we go. All right, so the sum of the stats of the first item is greater than the sum of the stats of the second item, then we'll produce the name of the first item, otherwise produce the name of the second item. All right, so this should work. Let me just format it a little more nicer. Control R to run, and all 4 tests passed. All right. So we could factor out the summing of the stats from this problem, because this problem is doing 2 things. It's summing up the stats and then comparing them and then producing the name, right? So in order to make this a little more readable, right, we're going to make a sum stats function, and then we're going to say it's going to consume an item and produce a number, that number being the combined stats, right? So next is produce combined stats of the given item. All right, let's just quickly do this. So next is the stub and the examples. So let me just skip to the examples because we're just going to take the template soon. So sum stats, we're only going to write 1 test here, right? For the knife, we know that the knife has a sum stat of 10, right? It has 5 attack, 5 defense, like so. And that should equal 10. All right, so we're just going to write 1 test for this really quickly, because since we're going to call this function from here, they had to pass these tests. So nonetheless, all right. So let's just take the template from item over here. All right, and sum stats is just going to add the attack and the defense. So there we go. We don't need the name here, and we don't need the price. We just need to sum these 2 up of the given item. So I'm gonna just erase here, make it look nicer. Control I to redent, and then Control R to run. This should pass this 5th test. Oh, I forgot to rename the template to the name of the function, sum stats, and of course the 5th test. This one did pass, so now we can use it here, right? So see how it's like when you read through this function for the first time, you have to sort of like you know, all right, so I'm taking an if and I'm adding the attack and defense, and then I'm adding the attack and defense at the second item, etc. We can just make it read a little more like English. So sum stats of the first given item, all right, and we're going to place this block with the sum stats of the second given item, all right? So IM2. All right, so now we run it. Same functionality, just a lot less code and a lot more readable code, arguably. Right, so now let's just hand this in to the server-side test to make sure we're not missing anything. So what is this called? 7.03. So we just scroll down, 7.03. All right, and hand it in, like so. And let's just log in and make sure that we passed all the tests. All right, so let's go. So it's user 2. And we get 3 out of 3. All right. Thank you for watching, human. If you wish to interact with more of your kind, join our Discord linked in the description or on screen. If you want to aid in my quest for world domination, consider hitting the sub button. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it, thumbs down if you didn't. Any questions, comments, or suggestions, fire away below. Also, check out the annotations on screen for the next relevant video.